Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning in the U.S. It's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I just wanted to say that to everybody. I am thankful for all the support that I get from you guys in the community. It's fantastic. Keeps the channel going. Keeps me interested and fresh and moving along. So thanks for all those interactions and the support as always. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Hang out with the fam. Watch some football. Go for a walk. Get ready for the madness of the holiday season, and hopefully for a day we can all just sort of put 2020 behind us for just a moment and have a nice little day right there. I know my family has all gathered, at least my immediate family, and we're more or less hale and hearty and healthy at this point. So fingers crossed, let's not get too crazy, but everything is going decently, let's put it that way. So guess what? We have, and the next part of this video will be talking about the Polar Challenge. We have a marathon. You can think of this as the kickoff to the holiday season, really. A little bit surprised there was a marathon shoved in before we get into Christmas, but hey, you know what? Whatever. It's for the 274 Alpha, which you should see some information on from the CCs. The interesting thing there is that it is advertised, right? Because if we come up to the website here, we can see very clearly that on the website, it is the Polar Challenge starting tomorrow, Friday 27th, Black Friday, and goes to the 7th for 10 days. There's a video, there's not much information in the video. And there it is, the 274 Alpha with some stats. So here it is. We'll talk about it just a little bit. 320 Alpha, 227 pen, my friends. That's standard. That's standard. 289 penetration with gold. Whoa. The DPM is not there, or is it? I think it is. Yes, no, maybe so. They almost never do that. It's a lot. I can tell you that. You can do the math. It's a lot. Survivability. The turret is pretty fantastic. Is it on there? That's interesting. The view range, it doesn't show the turret. Isn't that amazing? Well, you can find it other places, and I will tell you it's pretty good. The mobility is decent. It's up to 58 kilometers an hour. You'll notice the specific power is low. It does take a while to get up to speed. I'm going to leave that review stuff for later. Anyway, what does this say? The vehicle's dynamics are definitely enough to keep up with other Allied mediums and provide support for Allied heavies when needed. It can change flanks or fall. Okay, well, it's a medium, and it's fast, and it's pretty well armored, and it's got a fantastic gun. Anyway, like I said, we'll leave that for later. We're just going to talk about the challenge itself. Pretty standard. There's two avenues to do it. It's the, what do they call it? Mission for commitment and mission for mastery. Commitment means grind, baby, grind. Mission for mastery means grind, baby, grind, maybe a little slower. Or sorry, faster, not slower, maybe a little slower. The missions for mastery are usually something like obtain high caliber or top experience in X number of battles, stuff like that, as you guys know. The commitment is purely off of base experience, all right? That is the experience number when you go to the second page of your cards after the battle. That experience number, that's the base number that they do all the other calculations off. All right, so it's not the number with premium. It's not the number with the ×2. It's not the number with the yada yada personal reserves. It's the base. All right. Most people are going to be somewhere between an average of 300 to 600 base. Somewhere in there. All right. So you have to use those numbers, and we'll use 500 as our baseline. That's actually a pretty decent player. Slightly above average to slightly above average player. Maybe a little bit more depending on how you consider it, but we'll use 500 as the base number as we go through this. Break. One thing to remember on this that's different from what I recall is the missions for mastery are tier 9 and 10, not just 10. That's a good deal. If you're grinding 9s or you just like 9s better, I happen to think 9s have a little bit better matchmaker, because a 9 will always be top tier or middle tier, and it will never be bottom tier, and it will only ever see 3 or 4. That's not true, because if it's a 2-tier battle, it'll be more. Say 5 or 6 tier 10s in a battle, which most 9s can deal with tier 10s not too badly. There are 10 stages that you get through with correspondingly more difficult requirements. We'll get to that in the UI. I'll show you where that is. There are rewards for this challenge as you go. As you hit each one of these stages, you will get a discount. So you have to finish the stage for the discount, i.e. stage 1 is 2,000 base experience. Once you do 2,000 base experience, you now have a 10% discount. Okay, so it's not getting to the stage, it's finishing the stage that gives you the discount. This will be a package, which means it will be relatively expensive. I don't have a price point. I think it's out there somewhere, but it's going to be relatively 90 something-ish dollars. If I'm just going to pull a number out of my rear, this means that you're going to need a pretty good discount if you want to consider you're just buying the tank. If you do consider that you're getting a bunch of extra goodies in there, there are some things that are monetarily valuable to me for real world money. There's a lot of stuff in there is not necessarily worth it to me. That's a personal decision for you guys, but all these things have a monetary value that Wargaming has assigned to them. So I think if you get to 60%, you finish the 6th stage, you're starting to get a really pretty good deal out of this whole thing. And that's pretty easy to get to. We'll get to those numbers in just a second. There are missions. All right, this is the hook. This is how they try to get you to buy it right off the bat, is there are extra missions that give you stuff as soon as you unlock the tank. And because the number and the number be 254,000 experience if you do the commitment version. We'll get to that in the UI in just a second. That's somewhere on the order of 500 battles if you're a 500 experienced guy, plus you're not going to be able to unlock this thing very quickly by doing it that way. So these extra missions are really for people who just want to spend the money and be done with it. And then you'll have 10 extra missions for each day. The missions are only unlocked on one day, one mission per day. So for example, you buy it the first day, you're going to be able to get through all 10. You have to do the missions, but you'll be able to get through all 10. Say you go and you crank through and you get to stage 6 and you buy it on day 5. You're going to get 5 days of the extra missions. And they're only one per day. All right, so anyway, that's how that works. Here's the gifts for these things down here, or the rewards. Days of premium, lots of personal reserves. Are there any credits? Yes, there's credit, personal reserves. Looks like it's the same for each one. Then there's some more goodies, some training manuals, premium days, more premium days, times 5s. These things are really valuable. Game-wise, if you are grinding, times 5s are amazing for blasting through tanks and getting them ground up. More universals, days of premium, reserves, days of premium. And it looks like it's times 5s, days of premiums. You're going to crank out, 3 times 10? 30, it looks like, personal reserves for credits. Yeah, and they're the plus 50% ones. So add that on top of what you're buying when you buy the package. If you happen to do that the first day, there's another, 15 days of premium in there, I guess. 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13. Okay, 13. Jeez, come on, man. You do these in the 274 Alpha, by the way, just so you know, you've got to do it in the tank. All right, so that's the hook to try to get you to buy it right off the bat, and you'll get the thing immediately. All right, let's go ahead and jump into... Also, I wanted to let you guys know, we'll do this at the end. I'm going to do a quick down and dirty on the Feast and the tanks in it, because the Feast is out, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, there's a couple ways to get to the tank. I have the T-44-100 here. It's kind of a similar tank-ish. I guess the Mod 1 really is closer. To be quite honest, it's a lot like it looks like a lot like a slightly better Mod 1. All right. You can get there from here by clicking on this little flag, or you can obviously go up to missions. And remember, it's the event, it's an event. So they've filled that in now. It says Polar Challenge. There it is. There will be a splash page the first time you go there. You have to click on affirmative and you'll go through, but I've already done that. So here we are. Let's go quickly through the math. 250,000 experience to go purely through the mission for commitment. If you're averaging 500 experience a game, that's math in public, 508 games in 10 days. 50-something games a day. You have to be in the top 10 for it to count. Win or lose. There's no win condition. Add some slop onto that because you're not going to be top 10 every time, even if you're really good. Let's say you averaged 1,000 experience. That's 254 games plus some slop. But averaging 1,000 experience base, I don't know anyone who really does that. So we'll call it 500. 500 battles plus. Add some slop, 550, maybe 600. And for every 100 you go down, or every experience point you go down from averaging 500, yikes. It gets to a bunch really quick. All right? So really, most people are going to be playing to knock a discount out of the park on this thing. 60% is 127,000. Okay? Roughly 250 battles, maybe 300 in 10 days. That's probably a good goal for most players. Get to the 60% mark, and on the 10th day with a 60% discount, get a fairly decent tank out of it. All right? Those are the numbers. 50 a day is a lot. If you're going to do that, be wise. Not going to get into the rest of it, but you do what you want to do with your life. But however you go at this, be wise. So let's just talk about it real quick. Because it's tier 9 and 10, it makes the missions for mastery in my mind, a little bit more interesting. Because what I've advised in the past is, well, just play your 8s and 9s and go with commitment and don't worry about the mastery. Because otherwise you have to play 10, and 10s have a lot of other issues, especially for your average players. Average players are going to struggle a little bit trying to even get the commitment numbers out of tier 10s. Just because they're probably not as good as they are at their 8s. There you have it. But with 9s, that throws a little curveball into there. And it is possible, I think, in my mind, even for average players, if they want to play their 9s, get a little practice in that rarefied top tier area, but be a little bit protected, and that tier 9 has pretty good matchmaking overall, that you could maybe knock out some of the missions for mastery. And if you don't, you're playing a tank, and that's fine. Maybe you're even grinding it a little bit. And you're getting the missions for commitment on the way anyway, right? Because eventually you're going to finish the mission for commitment. For example, on stage 1, you need to get the high caliber one time to trip it. So that's top damage, I believe, on your team, or maybe it's top damage on both teams. I can't remember exactly. You have to look up the reward, but that's doing pretty good. But it looks like if we average 500 experience a game, it's going to take us 4 games to knock out stage 1. Yeah, maybe in 4 games we knock it out and get high caliber. We do it in game 1, 2, or 3. It happens faster. If we're averaging 300 experience, a lot faster, because 300 experience is going to take even longer. You see what I'm getting at right there? There's the gifts or the rewards. Stage 2, kind of the same thing. Cause at least 3,500 one time. 5,000 damage, that's about 10 battles for a 500 experience person. Okay. Yeah, not a bad chance, especially if you're an average to decent player. You might knock that out. So every time you get a stage for mastery, say you decide to play your tier 9s or 10s, every time you get a knock out a stage for mastery, that chops off a little bit, a few battles off of the mission for commitment. And if you don't get it, at least you're still grinding towards the mission for commitment. So that's a little bit, that one's going to be tricky, because like I said, in the past, I usually said just play your 8s. I don't think you want to play, and I think there's this tier requirement. Yes, tier 6. I don't think you want to do this at tier 6, guys. It's just there's less experience available at tier 6, even though you can if you want. I really think you want to concentrate minimum 7, but I don't even recommend that. 8, 9, and 10 is where it's at for these challenges. It really is. That's where the experience is. And because they've thrown, I'm just going to keep beating this dead horse. Because they've thrown tier 9 in there, I think possibility right there that's probably the sweet spot. Probably the sweet spot. You guys have to let me know when this thing's over how you did it, what your plan is, what you think of the tier 9 being thrown in there, and how it might change your calculus on what you're going to do. 800 points of experience 4 times for mastery. Okay, this is 18 battles at 500 average, so yeah, you might be able to knock that out for mission for mastery before you get done with commitment. So stage 3 looks doable. Finish the battle as the top player in your team by experience 7 times. It's 34 battles at 500. 7 times is, I don't know how many times I'm top experience in 30 battles. I don't think it's 7. I may have pulled that off on occasion, but that's a little bit higher, steeper climb right there. High caliber 4 times in 60 battles. That seems much easier to me. Then 7 top. This one I just laughed at. I'm thinking, what? 7 times experience, and then over here it's 4 times high caliber, because I believe high caliber is both teams, and that might be part of what they're thinking, but it makes no sense. This is easier by miles. It just is. Anyway, come over here for stage 6. That's the one I recommended going up to, which was 90 or 127,000. And then you're looking at be the top player in your team by damage 18 times. But of course, it's 64 battles. But that's once every 4 battles, basically. Oof, I don't know. That one's going to be, you got to be a really good player to have any chance of getting this before you knock out the mission for commitment. Finish the battle top player on both experience earn teams. Wait a minute. On both teams by experience earned 11 times. That's pretty easy against the enemy team, but there's a calculation where if they get courageous resistance, they might bump you on experience. So you do have to watch a little bit for that. But 11, that's again 64 battles. Okay, not bad. Could be done. 15 times player both teams by damage 15 times. Now you're competing against everybody. Well, there's a lot of people who lose games and have top damage out of two teams. So you've got to do that 15 times. Oh, end cause at least 3,200 HP of damage. Have I missed any of those ends along here? I bet I probably have. That's the first end that I've seen, I think. Was there another end in here anywhere? That's crazy. No, it doesn't look like there was. All right, so that's the first end. That's a kind of a double whammy right there. So you need 3,200 damage, and you need to be top player in damage, which, okay, unless it was a really strange game, usually somebody's got that much damage at that high a tier, usually. Or 37,000, we get to tier 9. Finish the battle as damage caused 27. So you can see how it just gets harder and harder for the mastery. And the last one is top player by experience. So it's kind of swapping back and forth most of the time between experience and damage as a requirement to finally unlock the tank. So like I said, I think tier or stage 6 is about the sweet spot. There were a lot of little gifts along the way, books, directives, some equipment, other stuff like that thrown in there. All right, there you go, the Polar Challenge. 60%, just to reiterate, 60% is about 127,000 experience, somewhere around 250 battles in 10 days, 25 battles a day. It's still a lot. That is still a lot for most players, to be honest with you. Remember that the first ones are easy to get through. They have much less, but the last, I think the numbers are the last 3 is about, the last 3 contains half the experience you need. That's why I kind of throw 60% as like a halfway mark. And then if you climb to 70%, you're getting an even better deal. So each chunk you take off of it from there is an even better deal on the package. And that is it for the Polar Challenge. Good luck with it. Like I said, be smart about it. I try not to be the nanny kind of person on this. It's you do what you're going to do. But you can spend a lot too much time sitting down in a chair. Let's just put it that way. All right, the last thing I wanted to do here is go over and give a quick down and dirty on the feast. We're just going to go through these tanks real quick. I'm going to give you a snap judgment on each one. 1 or 2 words or a statement. Okay, so let's start off. The LEF. I hate it. I don't think it, you know what? Overrated. That's the word. 112, power crept. Premium or preferential matchmaking, still fun. Needs gold. Toldy, who cares? Tier 3. 50 TP prototype. Good tier 8 heavy. 59 patent. Total mistake, not great. 8.8 power crept, been left behind, still fun with the gun. Armor's not as great as it used to be. AC1 Sentinel, surprisingly good for a tier 4. AC4 Experimental, same thing, surprisingly good. Comes with extra stuff, that's nice. 1357, fantastic light tank. 1357 GF, same bloody tank. The cannons, 1 and 2. The 105, amazing. The, oh sorry, the 90 is gone, isn't it? Oh, this is the French one. This is actually pretty good. Mobile TD. This is the CDC. Hot garbage, still mobile. M449, slow but effective, heavy. Liberté's the same thing. 15 Alpha. Fun in platoons. Fires like a machine gun. not very flexible. Britain, one of the tier 6 Panthers, meh. Ramming is fun. B-27 artillery, hits hard, misses everything. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting one on EU. They're everywhere. BTSV, bit of a collector's item. Kind of funny looking. Armor's not nearly as good as you would think. Carnarvon AX, pretty good heavy tank. Action AX. Centurion 5-1 rack, really good. Really good. Chrysler K destroyed the game a few years ago. That's when the game ended. Really great front armor. Not much else going on for it. Churchill 3, nah, it's okay. Cromwell B, people really love it. I find it to be overrated. Dicker Max, lots of fun hiding in a bush. Not very mobile, hard to use. E25, same thing as the Dicker Max, except very mobile and easy to use. E75 TS, not as good as the Lurva. Some people like it better. I don't do very well with it, but it's pretty good. ELC even 90, one of the most fun tanks you will ever find in this game. Absolute blast to play. Can be tricky. Excelsior, decent tier 5, solid. Pack 40, what is it doing at tier 3? It actually absolutely dominates, but once it gets surrounded, it goes down pretty quickly. FCM50T, I like that tank. It's not very good, though, anymore. The gun needs some help. The 1066 Senlac is nothing like the rest of the British light tank line, but it's actually a pretty good standard light tank. I like the FV201A45. You don't see many of them. Decent tier 7. 4202 is not as good as the rack or the 5/1 or the Prima Victoria or whatever, however there are many versions of that thing there are, but it is a solid medium premium. Gross Tractor Krupp is awful. Heavy Tank number 6 is another tier 6 Tiger, pretty good at tier 6. Hawk 30 has a lot going for it. It's just too big. I like it, but I would call it average. The IS-2 is average. The IS-2 Shielded is mo better. The IS-2M is mo better. Of those three, that's the one you want right there. IS-3A, another tank that ruined the game. Interesting that it has fallen out of favor and you don't see many of them because it's just kind of derpy and not great on the armor. IS-6 is a lot like the 112 has been power crept. The power or the armor is not nearly as good as it used to be. The IS-6B is the same thing. It's just black. ISU 122S has a lot of DPM and is actually pretty fun tank. There's the Cannon Panzer Jagdpanzer thing 105. Used to be a 90mm. I guess they don't sell the 90 anymore. This is a really good tank. Has a laser for a gun. Sterkrupp Waffenträger. I would love this thing to be better than it is. It's just not great. KV-122, probably one of the worst tier 7 premiums, but the 390 Alpha gun is a lot of fun when it does its thing. KV-220-2, another power creep, used to be a bit of a legend. It can be pretty easily defeated, but when gold spamming will ruin your day by machine gunning you down with its tiny little gun. KV-5 is fun, lots of fun to ram. The armor can occasionally be useful, but it's not great. The L60 tier 2, who cares? Lance C, very mobile, big gun, not too bad. The M4190 and the GF, fantastic light tanks at tier 8, very good. Another tier 2, no one cares. The Lurva, probably one of the best premium tier 8s. Loza's Sherman, that's one of the few tanks I've never played, but it's just another tier 6 Sherman, really. LT-432, one of the best light tanks. It's closer to a medium than a light tank, though. It'll do a few more medium things that most will not, and is a little worse as a scout, but is very mobile. LTP, tier 3. Seal Clubber. M22 Locust, tier 3, M3 Light, who cares, they're tier 3. M4 Improved is a terrible tier 5. M41D is a decent scout, but not as good as the Black Dog as that 4190. Why? Because it doesn't have the 90mm on it, so it's just sort of average. Patton KR is probably one of the worst premium mediums. Rampanzer says, hold my beer, I am actually the worst premium medium. Revaloris is interesting for being a Sherman at tier 8, which is a bad idea, but has a really big gun, which is a good idea. The Renagati, probably challenging the Lurva for one of the best tier 8 heavies out there. Very good tank. Scorpion, kind of a one-hit wonder. It hides in bushes. It's a little tiny thing. It does hit decently hard for tier 7. It's a good premium TD and has a turret-ish. The Mutant used to be a king of the armor. Now its armor is just decent, I guess. I was going to say average. It's actually fairly decent. People will have trouble without gold. Matilda Black Prince, it's okay. Matilda 4 is actually pretty good. The MKA is tier 2, nobody cares. The Object 244 is probably one of the worst Russian premiums of all. It has a little gun on a heavy, and it just doesn't work very well. 252U and Defender also ruined the game at one point. They've been power crept a little bit, if you can believe it. The guns are just super derpy, but the armor is easy mode for noobs because it just bounces stuff at random directions. So if you want to survive a bunch, play that. You're probably going to be not very effective because its mobility is limited and its gun is derpy. I love the 8.8. A lot of people hate it. It got a buff in the recent past. This is better than people know. It's a sleeper. Panther M10 is a fantastic tier 7. Also rams really nicely. Panzer 58 and the Mutts are decent tier 8 premium mediums. The Pudel is another tier 6. Panther, we have a lot of those. The 740F is decent at tier 4. The Panzer II Aus D is tier 2. Nobody cares. The Aus J needs gold. It just has a hard time pinning anything. Actually, that's the K. These are all, who cares? Nobody cares about this. The Schmaltram is underrated. The gun is not nearly as accurate as they would like you to think. The 739F is, it's tier 3, who cares? The T15 is kind of a mess. The T25 at tier 5 is a premium. There's a Czechoslovakian tier 6 version, which is a lot more fun with an autoloader, but this is okay. It turns like a boat. Rheinmetall Scorpion and Scorpion G are legends in the TD community. They have a turret, they have good mobility, they have terrible camo, but they can thump you hard, and if they're kept out of the way, they're very good. Schwarzpanzer 58, isn't there, where's the Mutts? Huh, okay, that's the black Mutts, isn't it? Huh, I don't know. Sexton, maybe you don't get it. Sexton is tier 3, premium already, pooey. It's not actually very good. The Firefly is a decent tier 6 medium. The Skoda is probably one of the worst premium autoloaders out there. I could never make it work. The Skoda T40 is okay at tier 6, but it's a great big barn driving around. I like the STA2. This is a very good premium medium tank. The STG and the Guard are weird rear turreted tanks. They're a lot of fun. They hit hard, but they don't really have a place in the game. Their armor's not good enough to get up and brawl, and they need to be up close to brawl with their gun, and their turret's really not that great. Those are weird tanks. The Sturv 81 is pretty darn good. Good turret, good accuracy, decent gun. Sturv, this is a little autoloader. This will surprise people, and the reload between the clips is really nice. Sturv S1 is a really fun TD. The Udez is kind of hard to use compared to this thing. This thing is actually a lot more fun, in my opinion, than the Udez at tier 8. Su-100Y is a hoot when it hits. It's miserable when it gets caught out and annihilated. The 122-44 is an overpowered tier 7 TD that did not lose its camo shooting ability. The Su-130 is a poor relation to the Scorpion, but it is the Skorpiansky, and it's kind of close for the Russians. Su-85I, I don't even know if I've played that thing. It's a tier 5 TD. T-103 has a fantastic turret. It is not as good as it looked initially. You don't see very many of them, but it's not bad either. Tier 3, who cares about the 116? The 127 is a Steel Clubber's Paradise. The T14 is a okay tier 5, requires gold a lot of times. The T1 at E6 and the light tanker tier 2s, nobody cares. The Pilot number 1 is probably challenging a little bit the KR for one of the worst tier 8 premium mediums. The Eagle 7, however, down-tiered, basically a very similar tank. A prototype Pershing at tier 7 is really pretty good. Anytime they down-tier something, it's usually pretty good. Anytime they up-tier something, it's usually mediocre. Super Pershing, another legend, is very good, very forgiving medium tank, but it plays like a heavy. T26, E5, and the Patriot were pretty darn good when they came out. They've been power corrupt. The Alpha hurts them quite a bit, but they're still a decent hold-down turret fighter. The T-34 has held up for a long time. Hits really hard, reloads really slow. It's not very mobile, but still with its turret and the way the game is played is a good tank. 34 Shielded is an interesting T-34. It's just slow with a little more armor. 34-3 is hard to use, but can be fun. I know a lot of people who like it. It's a Chinese medium with a big gun. 3485M is clearly the best tier 6 premium medium. 44-100 I think is overrated, but a lot of good players like it. It's got good accuracy, good mobility, okay armor at tier 8. At T45s at tier 2, nobody cares. The prototype, I think, is a better T-44-100 in my opinion, especially for newer to mediocre players because it's got better armor, which will save you when you make mistakes. Tier 2 combat car is kind of funny. It's got a little machine gun on it, but nobody cares. T-78 is a kind of mediocre, slightly worse Hellcat, I guess. T-92 is a pretty good light tank, but it's more in the medium area as far as being good. Tetrarch's Tier 2, nobody cares. Tiger 131, another Tier 6 with a short 88, Tier 6 Tiger. I like it. TOG 2 is a lot of fun. You got to kind of be ready for the memes when you play that. Let's just put it that way. Lots of hit points, very slow, kind of funny. It's a really huge tank. TS5 is a really good assault TD. Tier 5 Turan 3, I don't have a lot of battles in it. It's pretty mediocre. Turtle is a decent assault TD. I think the TS5 is a lot better, but this thing will fire really quickly. The pen is abysmal on that thing. Tier 5 Chinu Kai is kind of a bad Tier 5. The only thing going for it is its gun, and its gun isn't really that great. Type 62 is a lot of fun and is a pretty darn good Tier 7 light tank. The Type 64 is a really good Tier 6 light tank. Tier 2 Kite, who cares? Tier 4 Valentine 2 is kind of meh. Marbreaker, most people hate it. I didn't hate it. It's not great, though. It's got armor going for it, and that's about it. Everything else is pretty terrible. 4503 is a pretty good Tier 7 premium tank. Kind of like a Tiger 1-ish, but maybe slightly worse. WZ-111 is like a 112 and an IS-6. You're going to be firing gold. It is preferential matchmaking. The Alpine Tiger is a copy that has a fancy Chinese dragon. No, tiger, not dragon, but tiger. And finally, the WZ-121 GFT is Chinese Tier 8 premium TD, and that is actually a really good TD. It just struggles on the depression standpoint. So some of the places you use TDs and peak over ridges and things can be very difficult to use in that. There you go. Snap judgment on all 127 or 4 or whatever it is, 142 tanks that are in the feast. It is $999.99. All right, guys, that is all I've got for today. Have a good Thanksgiving. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you guys later.